The last part of chapter 3 is putting together two things you already know. The order of operations. So what do you do first when you have multiple different things to do? And also looking at fractions with those. So just as a refresher, remember we use this BEDMAS rule to decide what we're going to do first. How do we solve problems when we have multiple operations? So first we would start with the brackets, then the exponents, then we can do the division and multiplication. And remember, we do those left to right. And then we can do the addition and subtraction left to right. There's another B I didn't mention before. So yes, we want to do the brackets first, but we can also think of this B as meaning bar. We do above, we evaluate above and below the bar. So if we have fractions that have operations on them, we want to evaluate those. Let's do some examples. So this first one here, A, well, let's start with B. Well, we don't have any actual brackets that would have like a plus sign in them or subtraction or something like that. The bracket we do have there just means multiplication. It's another way to write multiplication. And so just in case that's confusing you, I'm going to rewrite that with a dot there to show you that's just a multiplication. Okay, let's start back at B though. B also stands for above and below the bar, which means the first thing we want to do is evaluate that numerator. Within that numerator, we want to do our multiplication first. So we're going to have 3 plus 32 over 7. Now we can do our addition, which gives us 35 over 7. And now all we have left is our division, is doing our fraction. So we can simplify that fraction to get 5 over 1, or just the whole number 5. So first we did above that bar, we evaluated above that bar using our BEDMAS rules by multiplying first and then doing the addition. And then at the end, we were able to do our final division, which was our fraction, to end up with 5. Let's do another. So here, once again, we need to evaluate that numerator. Within that numerator, let's do BEDMAS. There's no brackets. I do see an exponent though. So the first thing we're going to want to do is our exponent. So we've got 30 minus 3 times 2 squared. 2 squared is 2 times 2, so that's going to be 4. And then we're dividing by 3. Next up, so we've dealt with exponents, we have to do our multiplication next. So 3 times 4 gives me 12. And now I can do that subtraction. 30 minus 12 gives me 18. So I have 18 over 3. Now I just have a division, 18 divided by 3, which is 6. If that fraction was not reducible to a whole number, I would have wanted to just simplify it there. All right, let's try one more together. So we do have a bracket. Let's deal with what's in our brackets first. So I'm going to leave this 1 over 13 squared alone for now. I've got 1 over 4 plus 1 over 6. So we're adding unlike fractions, which means we're going to need a common denominator. Let's figure out what that common denominator is. I'm going to use the table method. So my two denominators are 4 and 6. And both of those can divide by 2, which leaves me with 2 and 3. Those are prime, so I can draw myself my L. And so the least common denominator here is 2 times 2 times 3, which is 4 times 3, or 12. So I'm looking for a denominator of 3 for both of these fractions. I've got 1 over 4. So to make that have a denominator of 3, I'm going to multiply, or sorry, to make that a denominator of 12, I'm going to multiply by 3. I'm looking for a denominator of 12. Sorry, I think I might have said 3. So I'm looking for a denominator of 12. That means I multiplied that first fraction by 3. This second fraction, I'm also looking for a denominator of 12. This time I'm going to have to multiply by 2 to get that denominator. Sometimes my hands do different things than my mouth says. Okay, so here we go now. Let's get that common denominator. So we've got this 1 over 13 squared times, okay, this is going to become 3 over 12 plus 2 over 12. And then we've got divided by 5 over 13. Let's finish that addition up. So we've got 1 over 13 squared times, that's going to become 5 over 12. And then we've got divided by 5 over 13. I don't really need that bracket, those brackets around the 5 over 12, but I have them there anyway. They won't hurt. Okay, what do we do next? So we've dealt with our brackets. Now we've got to deal with that exponent. So we've got 1 over 13 squared. That really means 1 over 13 times 1 over 13. Okay, and then we've got that times 5 over 12 and divided by 5 over 13. Okay, so that 1 over 13 times 1 over 13 will give me 1 over 13 times 13 is 169. And then I'm multiplying that by 5 over 12. And then I'm dividing that by 5 over 13. Okay, so let's start with our multiplication there. That's going to give me, I don't see any way to cross simplify that. So I get 5 over 169 times 12 is 2028. And then we have that divided by 5 over 13. Let's bring that up here. I'll just copy it down again. Remember, when we divide a fraction, that means we flip and multiply. So this is going to be 5 over 2028 times 13 over 5. And I can see I've got some 5s in common. I'm going to cross simplify by dividing those by 5 to get 1 and 1. And let's see if 2028 divides evenly by 13. Haha, it does. And so we can reduce those down by dividing them each by 13. So 13 divided by 13 gives me 1. 2028 divided by 13 gives me 156. So that means my answer here will be 1 times 1 over 156 times 1. So 1 over 156. So go ahead, pause the video and try that next one on your own. All right, let's do question D together. So first thing we're going to do here, I see some brackets. So let's deal with our brackets. So we've got multiplied by, okay, we're adding unlike fractions again. So we want a common denominator. Both our denominators are prime. 3 and 5 are both prime. So the least common denominator then is going to be the product of those two numbers, so 15. So we're looking for denominators of 15. So what do I need to multiply that first fraction by to get a denominator of 15? We would need to multiply here by 5 over 5. So let's do that. And then we've got 4 over 5. So we're going to want to multiply that fraction by 3 over 3. Okay, so what do we get? So we've got 10 over 15 plus 12 over 15. Now we have a common denominator, so we can add those two up. So that's going to be 22 over 15. Next step, we're going to want to deal with that exponent. So we've got 1/2 squared, which is 1/2 times 1/2. The brackets there tell you that that squared, the power of 2 there, applies to both the numerator and the denominator. So that's 1/2 times 1/2, or you can think of it as 1 squared over 2 squared. So I'm gonna call it 1/2 times 1/2. And then we're multiplying by 22 over 15. So I'm going to get 14 over 15. minus 1 times 1 gives me 1 over 2 times 2 gives me 4. And then we're multiplying by 22 over 15. Okay, what next here? Well, we've got a subtraction and a multiplication left, so we need to do our multiplication next. I'm going to cross simplify that multiplication because I can see 4 and 22 are both divisible by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2 to get 2 and 11 there. So then I've got 14 over 15 minus, oh, I almost had a common denominator, darn it, minus 11 over 30. Now the last thing I've got to do is deal with that subtraction. So to subtract, we've got unlike denominators right now. We have to get a common denominator. This time we have 15 and 30. 30 is a multiple of 15, which means it can be our LCD. It's our common denominator here. So I want to get to 30. So I'm going to multiply this first fraction then by 2 over 2. And so that's going to become 28 over 30 minus 11 over 30. And so 28 minus 11 gives me 17. So I end up with 17 over 30 as my final answer here. So the last two questions here are some more problems for you to practice with BEDMAS. So why don't you give these a try and then watch the next video. One little tip first is remember, so with this mixed number, what you want to do is convert that to an improper fraction before continuing on with your BEDMAS. So convert to improper. So give those a go and then you watch the next video to check your answers.